Hey guys, this is Mr. Wilcox. So today we're going to be looking at adding fractions with like denominators. This is a review from fourth grade as well, so we're going to kind of go over this a little quickly. So just have your pencil out and your interactive notebook, get that stuff ready. We're going to start taking notes. So if you remember correctly, if the steps to doing adding fractions with like denominators are, first you want to check that the denominators are the same. Okay, step 2, add the numerators together. Step 3 is keep the common denominator. So you want to make sure that you have that same denominator. So keep the common denominator whenever you're answering your fraction. And then you want to simplify by reducing or creating a mixed number. Okay, so we are about to start a few examples. If you need to pause that and go ahead and write your notes, you can do that at this time. Okay, so the first example here is going to be 4/8 plus 2/8. So 4 plus 2, so we're going to look at our steps here. We're going to check the denominators are the same, and they are. Then we're going to add the numerators together. So 4 plus 2 is 6. And then we're going to keep the common denominator, which is 8 there. And what you notice about these two numbers here is they're both even numbers, so we can simplify. So we're looking at step 4 there. We can go ahead and simplify. And two numbers that we can divide by, some factors that we have for 6 is going to be 2, 1, 3, and 6. Factors of 8, we would have 1, 2, 4, and 8. Okay, and so now we have common factors that we could use. Remember, any even numbers you could always divide by 2, but we need to look here and see if there's any other numbers that we could use to divide by those two numbers. I don't see that there are, so we're going to go ahead and divide both of these numbers by 2. And in fractions, whenever you're simplifying here, you need whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. So we're going to both divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 gives you 4. So the final answer for that is going to be 3/4. Okay. Our next example is going to be, this is example number 2, is 5/6 plus 2/6. So we're going to follow our steps again, check the denominators are the same, which they are, add the numerators together. 5 plus 2 is 7, and then 6 plus 6, we're not going to add those. We have to make sure that that stays the same. So you're going to have 7/6. Okay, this is an improper fraction, so we need to make it proper. So we're going to divide 6 into 7. It goes in one time with a remainder of 1, and then the denominator stays the same. So now we have simplified by reducing or creating a mixed number. Okay, so now we are going to start on our U try. Here are our 2 U tries. Okay, the first one is going to be 6/12 plus 3/12. And our second one is going to be 7/9 plus 4/9. Now, if you need to pause the video, go ahead and work these out. These are the ones you're going to try on your own, and then we will be able to go over these in class. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, friends. Now we are going to be adding fractions with different denominators. So what I need you to do is go ahead and title the next side of your page, adding fractions with different denominators. Okay, and we're going to write down the steps for these. So here are your steps. Step 1 is to create equivalent fractions that have common denominators. Okay, just like we did before, we had the common denominators. You want to make sure you have common denominators before we can start adding or subtracting. Okay, so number 2, add the numerators. So it's very similar steps to what we were doing previous. You find the common denominator, then you're adding the numerators. Step 3 is to keep the common denominator, and then you're going to simplify by reducing or creating a mixed number. Okay, so our first example here is going to be 1/2 plus 2/5. So go ahead and write down, as we're working this, you can go ahead and write this down, and you could work it along with us as well. Okay, so 1/2 plus 2/5. So I need to create an equivalent fraction that have common denominators. Right now, the denominators are not common. We have a 5 and a 2, so we need to make sure they're common and they are the same. Okay, So what I can do is I can list my multiples of 2 to help me out. So the multiples of 2 would be 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Let's try that. And then for 5, I have, let's just write it up here, 5, 10, 15, 20. And if you notice, I have something in common with these up here. So my common multiples that I have are going to be the two 10s here. Okay, so I can use the two 10s to find a common denominator. So I'm going to write my 10 over here, and then I'm going to write my 10 right here. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to solve so I can change these fractions so I'll be able to add them with a common denominator, because you want to be sure you can keep that common denominator, okay? So 5 will go into 10 2 times, and then what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then I will do the same up here to the top fraction. So 2 times what will give me 10? That would be 5, and then 1 times 5 gives me 5. I now have 5 fourths, or 5 tenths plus 4 tenths, which gives me 9 tenths. Okay, now I can look at that and see if it's simplified. And so I have 9 over 10. There's no common factors between the two, so it is simplified. Now our next example we're going to do is going to be 1/2 plus 1/4. Once again, the denominators are not common, they're not the same. So what I need to do is I need to make a common denominator. So I can list my multiples up here, multiples of 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And then I can list, so I have 4, 8, 12. So I see something that's in common here. I have my 4s in common. So I can write that as my common denominator so I can get these ready to add. So now I have 4 times what gives me 4? That would be 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times what number gives me 4? 2 times 2. So what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So that gives me 2 there. Now I can go ahead and add these, and I get 3/4. And that is simplified because there is no common factors between those two either. Okay? Now, you are going to try the U-tries. This is where you're going to write these down, pause the video, and you can work these out, and then we will check these back in class. Okay, so the U-tries, the first one is going to be 1/6 plus 5/8. And then the other U-try is going to be 1/9 plus 5/6. Now just remember, if you need to go back in the video, you can pause it. If you want to go back to the video, you can rewind and go back to some of the steps if you need to. But always remember, once you get your answer, to always simplify, either by reducing or creating a mixed number at the end. Thank you.